Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so the other side of the Kevin Durant situation. What I was talking about in my video essentially was why I think the Brooklyn Nets should do what it is that Kevin Durant has asked them to do. I think there's another side to it, and the other side is why Kevin Durant probably shouldn't do what it is that he's doing. For those who are not aware, Kevin Durant has asked the Brooklyn Nets to either trade him or fire the coach, Steve Nash, and the general manager, Sean Marks. Both, or him. He should not necessarily do this because what it does is it leaves bad blood in the water for you as you wind down in your career. We watch other players go through this process where they make some people unhappy while they're at the top, and on the way down they kick them, you know. And it's one of those situations where this is how you get blackballed. And while nobody's going to blackball Kevin Durant while he's able to do what he's doing, as he winds down and decides he wants to take roles and things of that nature later on down the road, they're going to force him into retirement. There's no way. They're going to forget this set of decisions that he's made this summer to put the Brooklyn Nets in such a situation. Now, me personally, I'm watching this and I'm weighing it against the information that I've been paying attention to. And one of the things that I've been listening to was the idea that Kevin Durant wanted the Brooklyn Nets to pay Kyrie Irving. That's been a very key point that I've really been hanging my hat on and understanding that's the only aspect of this that makes any sense. And if you're looking at Kyrie's situation, you hear about the contingencies and the fact that they want him to take the vaccine and how that is so vehemently against his beliefs and how much that's cost not only him as a player in his personal life, but the team and what they just went through and how that ultimately affected situations as it was. Now, Kevin Durant, it's a mystery as to what his relationship is like with Kyrie right now, but one thing's for certain, the tea leaves still show us the very same thing I just said. He wants his boy to get paid, and the only way that Kyrie is going to agree to a contract is if they're not forcing him to have these contingencies that have been reported to possibly be there. And I say possibly, allegedly, because we don't know what's on contracts or what's being really discussed. But what we do know is they want Kyrie to take the vaccine if it is something that comes about again. And so that right there is something we don't believe either side is going to waver on. Both Josiah and Kyrie are going to stand firm on their square. So how does that trickle down to Kyrie to KD's situation? Well, I think KD's essentially saying, how do you like it, Josiah? How do you like it? You know, you're forcing my boy Kyrie to have all these contingencies and forcing him to humble himself in the face of you with what you're asking him to do. I'm going to then in turn do the same here. I know what it looks like when I ask you to do something like this. And I'm speaking from KD's perspective. I believe he understands exactly the position he put Josiah in. You're asking Josiah to humble himself before a basketball player. He's never going to do that. He's never going to do that. It ain't even about whether or not those two guys deserve to be traded, fired, for which I made the case for, and why it's the lesser of the two headaches for him to make that decision from a basketball standpoint. But from a position of power, there's no way he's going to do that. That man ain't going to do that. You know, that's just not going to happen. So KD knows he's not going to do that. And essentially he's giving the man the royal finger. That's how I'm taking it. And I think that's what it is. I think he thinks that Josiah has given him the finger several times over in regards to this situation. Or rather giving his boy the finger, which is subsequently giving him the finger if you're following. So that's how I'm looking at the situation. It's a lot of unanswered questions, so at the end of the day, it's just speculation. But I think this is just a big royal FU from Kevin Durant. He knows that man ain't gonna do that. He knows he's putting that man in a bad situation. He knows what that man looks like if he does capitulate to these demands. And so it's just one of these situations where you know it's just basically Kevin Durant reiterating, look, you either cut your arm off or get me out of here. Essentially, that's how that goes. And the problem is when you tell a billionaire that these are his options, you're going to have to deal with some retribution later on. And that's why you don't do this. That's why you don't do this, because the owners are a conglomerate that ultimately come together to help make this thing work. They make each other's money. If you're paying attention close enough, that's kind of how this goes. So, yeah, do you expect the next collective bargaining agreement situation to be brutal in terms of the owners pressing for certain things that the players are just not going to enjoy or appreciate? Yes, and this is why. And you just hate that KD has to be the guy for this, because when you look down the road, they're going to look at him because he was the biggest star doing it. James Harden, yes, LeBron James set the precedent, but this particular move is it's one of those situations where you understand that you're drawing a line in the sand with the owners, but you're also dragging your brothers, your fellow players, into that mix to a degree. So I hope Kevin Durant understands that he's not going to be making a lot of friends doing stuff like this. It's one thing to demand your way out. It's another thing to give the owners the fingers on the way out the door. And so that's how I think this is. That's what looks like to me. But how do you like it, Josiah? I guess that's what it is. How you like it? You don't like it? Don't do it to Kai. That's essentially what it seems like he's saying in a more or less roundabout way. That's what it looked like to me. You know, put these weird contingencies in there. My boy got to jump through hoops and all kinds of weird stuff just to get his 5th year. He ain't asked nobody else to do that. Did you do that to the other guys that didn't vax themselves? Are you hearing the owners doing that to these players? No. They did it because we're in Brooklyn. The stupid mandate was in place that should not have actually even been there. Therefore, the spotlight that was placed on the situation shouldn't have been there. You see what I'm getting at? It's like a lot of this stuff just has to do with the fact that it's Brooklyn and the Nets didn't handle it very well because they were too busy trying to live up to what the standard socially was, instead of making sure the people that were in the building with them felt comfortable with the circumstances there. Now, granted, it's impossible to make everybody happy in a situation where a guy says, I'm just not going to do something that requires me to be able to play. But the way that they handled it ultimately wasn't satisfactory, because if it were, we wouldn't be here. But I hope Kevin Durant knows that he's going to be punting his career. I hope he's prepared to retire. Pretty much is what I tell Kevin Durant. Not necessarily right away, but at any given point when you want to be a role player, you know they're going to give you headaches, bro. They're going to give you headaches. They're going to try to make life hard on you. They're going to try to make life hard on your allies. Since they know that's something that matters so much to you, they probably won't even punch you around. They're just going to punch the people you loved around the most. And that's what KD needs to guard against. You know, you're in the midst of trying to protect your friend, but now you put a target on your back, and they know what matters to you, your friends. So these are the type of things. It's like you got to be able to see the angles, man, because you're dealing with smart people who have the long game in mind, and you have a short amount of time to figure your situation out. So while you're trying to get yourself where you want to go, in the midst of all that, you're also starting other fires. You know, you're starting all these fires. Eventually, you're going to surround yourself. You're going to be in a blaze of glory because you were trying to fight off your enemies. Like, no, buddy, that's not a good thing. Now you're surrounding yourself. So that's what I see at KD's. The walls are closing in on him quickly, and the only thing that's going to save him is talent. It's literally it. Because now he's going to be put in that category with Kyrie as an insubordinate player who just wants to make life harder on owners for reasons that don't make sense to them, even though they make more sense to a person like myself. At the end of the day, you're going to hear all the pundits talk about how they need to get control of these players because you can't let the chickens control the hen house, or whatever the hell they say, whatever the stupid analogy is for keeping control over human beings. At the end of the day, you have to be like water if you want to properly adjust to the way the players are right now. If you're going to start whipping and chains and doing all this weird stuff, making them feel like they're even more so confined, all you're going to get is more insubordination. No one's going to be falling in line anytime soon, I promise you that. It's not the spirit of this generation, let alone these players. You had better be like water, or you're in for a very long fight that's not going to end with the best talent being on the floor over the next several years. Get your mind right, NBA. At the end of the day, I'm not watching owners run around. So if you don't make it right with the minds of these players, you're going to fail. If ands or maybe, there's no ifs, ands, or maybes about it. You can't make these people be who you want them to be just so they can run around the way that you want them to. No, you got to be the way they need you to be so that you can perform, or rather provide them the spotlight for their talents. It's the performance that they're going to put forth. You need to be able to give that spotlight to those players. that is your role. Never lose sight of that, NBA. Never lose sight of that. Just like you tell the players they're not bigger than the teams, they're not bigger than the game, neither is the league. And I think, and as I've said in a million videos lately, I think the league has lost sight of that. They think they're bigger than the game. And everybody needs to reel it in, come back to the drawing board and understand that they can't do this without one another. Because I can tell you right now, we can go see KD run around at the, Drew League in various places, but it's not going to garner the same amount of money as if they're doing it under the NBA logo. So everybody has to come together and make it happen. Or somebody somewhere needs to start developing a different league. So if you don't like how the way things are run in the NBA, you got to create a viable, competition. So that's not possible, obviously. So these two entities must work with one another. That's really what it is. So it sucks. It sucks because KD is created a lot of enemies here. And he already didn't have a lot of friends to begin with. And it also sucks because the player's not necessarily in a position to win right now. Like, this is a fight where you're throwing stones at Goliath. Maybe it works, but 9 out of 10 times probably not. So at the end of the day, they have your contract, they have your rights, and your real leverage, your true leverage in the NBA is the ability to walk away. And for a guy like KD, that means a lot to the players who have his contract, for the owner who has his contract right now. So good luck, man. Good luck. Like I said, as long as he's willing to walk away, he's fine. But if he has plans of being a role player and extending his career 5, 6, 7 years past this contract, playing as an old man or whatever, nah, they ain't gonna let it happen. They're not gonna let it happen because of this right here. So hope I'm wrong, but it is what it is, man. That's what I gotta say. I think that's the other side of it. I don't know if there was another point to make in regards to this. I don't want to let you guys go before there is. But I just think KD wants to let them get a little taste of their own medicine. Doing that to Kyrie and putting that nonsense in his contract that he didn't appreciate. That's my take on it. And who knows what the real behind-the-scenes issue is with Sean Marks. Maybe he has a personal issue with Sean. Although I don't think that would necessarily be in place for this to be the case. It could be strictly professional. And I illustrated that in the last video from my perspective. I didn't even think about it from a personal standpoint. Like, nah, these two guys got to go because they don't necessarily help us win, I guess is what I would say KD's thinking. So, but if it is personal, that makes sense if these guys, if he wants dudes out. But that didn't have to be the case necessarily. I'm curious to see what Kyrie thinks of all this. That's what I'm curious to see about, because he is trying to get reacclimated with the Brooklyn Nets, even though obviously his eyes are set on the more realistic landing spot being the Lakers. I think that's the way to phrase it. It looks more realistic to him probably that he ends up with the Lakers. But there's still a slight chance that they still give him a bag of some sort. So he's trying to get reacclimated with the team. But if these changes are made, it changes where he's at. Let's say the Nets do either of these two options, either trade Kevin Durant or fire those two men. It's going to change everything. It changes what the Brooklyn Nets need. It changes what the Brooklyn Nets' next moves are going to be because you won't have Sean Marks in place. So that's why this doesn't look like it's something that Joe Tsai would even consider. I don't even think he would consider this. For all the reasons said, and because it's just going to be very difficult to find a viable GM right now. And you're going to need a viable GM to make a trade like you're going to have to make in order to make everything come together for this team. Even in the event that they do keep Kevin Durant and trade and fire those two guys, you still have to figure out what to do with Kyrie Irving. And that's going to require you to have a good GM in place, in my opinion. So we'll see. I don't know what the Brooklyn Nets plans are going to be. We'll see what type of owner Joe Tsai wants to be seen as with the next decision he makes, because that's what it's going to be all about. Are you going to let precedent be set that players can make these type of demands at will, or are you going to stand firm and not make that decision? Now, the thing about that is, I always say there's a deeper wisdom to certain things, because just like I said with the Lakers and those 2 picks, just because people are forcing you to do something, and it goes against all of your stances, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you look at the move that needs to be made, that it shouldn't actually be made any damn way. And this is that. It's like, yeah, they're trying to force you to do something that's good for you. You need to get rid of those guys because they're not the right guys for the job. But not in this way. That's the problem. If you're Joe Tsai, it's like, yeah, okay, I come to that conclusion. God. But I'm going to execute it in such a way. It certainly ain't going to be looking like I'm doing it for him. You understand what I'm saying? So Joe Tsai may be like, yeah, he's right. These moves need to be made. And then proceed to tell KD, hell no. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. I would be like, no, Kevin, I'm not going to do this for you. He's going to leave the room, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to do it for me later. Those guys are gone for sure. But right now, I got to keep my stance. So that's how I would play it if I'm Joe Tsai, and I'm not going to do that. I'm taking your suggestions, just like I would take any other player's suggestions in regards to my roster, and I would take it back to the drawing board. That's what I would tell him in regards to the moves he's demanded. I'm not going to make it seem as if, in the presence of all these fellow owners, that I'm just going to let us all need to be pushed around in order for our franchise to be run. No. Because once you set that precedent, then you have irresponsible players left and right pushing teams around, telling them to do stuff that makes absolutely no sense. You know what I mean? You can't do it. That cannot be the precedent. And KD needs to understand that as well. It's like, brother, no one's going to do that, because if they do, that is what happens in other situations. You don't want that. That makes for a very bad league, in my opinion. So, this is what I'm saying. That's why I think it's a proverbial FU that KD's giving them, because all of this makes sense if you see it that way. And it's like, no, you're not going to do it. You're not going to consider it. You're going to be insulted by someone putting that in your face, so on and so forth. So that's what I think is going on there. Joe Tsai is probably sitting there angry, trying to figure out a way to sever ties with Kevin Durant even sooner. And hopefully it works. Hopefully that sets the ball rolling. Why do I care if that happens? Because I'm a Laker fan. I want Kyrie as a Laker. I don't care about none of y'all teams. I swear to God, I'm all about us. So anytime I'm thinking about what needs to happen, I'm saying hopefully it's because it affects the Lakers. And I'm sure you guys know that by now. So that's my only horse in the race. But yeah, I want that done soon. So it is what it is, man. That's what I got, man. Good luck to everybody involved. KD, praying for your brother. Kyrie, praying for your brother. Everybody, Ben, praying for your brother. I want to see these guys win in situations that are meant for them to succeed, not situations that slap them together because that's just what we can do for now. Not good enough, Sean. That's not good enough. I'm not going to lie to you. They got to come up with a better way to win, in my humble opinion. So that's what KD's going to force them to do one way or another, and we'll see what happens. My name is BDO44. Thank you all for watching. I'm out.